A disappointing day, essentially, here in Ennis, but are we surprised?
Not at all surprised, and judging from the way that the last case in Coolock was handled, it was kind of, you're not expecting to get any favours, but at the same time, it is quite, in my opinion, ridiculous how this case is being handled, and it's almost like no matter what is put up in front of these people, these judges, as regards footage and stuff, they don't seem to see what I see, they don't seem to hear what I hear. And as I said, I went into a building which said McGowan House Hotel, and to try and speak to somebody who was in charge, quite politely, tried to be as polite as possible. I was treated kind of aggressively by some strange man who wouldn't identify himself, and some woman who wouldn't identify herself either, and just told me to leave.
Now we are going to have a look at the footage, right? We're going to break it down because I think it's important that the public get to see this too, what was shown to the judge in court today, because it's quite extraordinary. But since the last time you were here at Ennis District Court, I thought it was very interesting the way the mainstream media was covering the case, because they were leaving out the hotel part when they were talking about it. They'd call it McGowan House, and I was like, hotel? And then even in court today it was McGowan House Hotel, but the judge didn't seem to want to take that in because he says, look, it's not a hotel. But at the same time we had the locals saying it's not fit for purpose. And I had spoken to one guy, and he'd come in through Afghanistan with no passport, through several countries to get to Ireland.
We come illegally.
Illegally?
Yeah.
Okay, so no documentation?
No documentation.
No passport?
No, we can illegally by boat.
So it was a story of the greatest public importance. You have the video footage there. Let's just bring it up.
How's it going, everybody? Philip Dwyer here, citizen journalist. Back again at the McGowan House Hotel in Clare, just not too far outside Ennis, County Clare, at this people trafficking centre. It's been turned into one anyway. Very quiet around here. There's some camera people, or cameraman behind me now, from no less than Virgin Media, have managed to make it here.
Now we can see you outside a sign. The sign outside the hotel says, we'll just pause it there. So there you are, Philip, outside McGowan House Hotel, and we can see the sign is visible, and this was part of your defence, that the sign said a hotel, there was no barrier in place, there were cars going in and out of the hotel, and you, in the capacity as a journalist, as a citizen journalist, went in to ask some questions, awkward questions, but that's the job of the journalist.
Look, if the owner asks me to leave, I leave, you know. So here's a big fluorescent jacket here now. How are you? Pardon? Can I speak to the person in charge, please? Do you speak English? No, well then, someone to speak English, please, yeah?
Please.
Can I speak to the person in charge of the building? Please? I need to speak to the owner or the person in charge.
Private territory.
My name is Philip.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Please,
So can I?
territory.
Yeah. Can I speak to the person in charge? How are you? Yeah. Can I speak to the person who was in charge of the building, please? Yeah. I'm a journalist. I'm a citizen journalist. The people of Ireland need to know what's going on. I just want to ask a question to the owners, the people in charge.
Understand.
Okay, well then leave me alone then. Can I just speak to someone in charge?
No.
I thought you don't understand. Do you understand English?
Private territory.
What's going on here? Can I speak to somebody in charge of the building?
Private territory.
The local people are very concerned. Can you get the owners, please, or whoever's in charge, yeah? Just calling the police.
Okay.
Wow. What's going on? Why are you hiding? Why are you afraid of me asking a question? Can I just ask the owner, who's in charge, please? The manager or whoever's in charge?
Manager, okay?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'm...
But sure, I'm here. He can come out to me. Yeah? Just the manager. If the manager or the owner says I have to leave, I can leave. I don't know who you are. Who are you? Are you security?
No security.
Well, who are you? Who are you then to ask me to leave?
From Ukraine.
I want to... Pardon? Sorry?
From Ukraine.
You're from Ukraine?
Yes.
Wow, okay. Interesting. Yeah? And is the war still going on in Ukraine? Is it still going on in Ukraine? Is the war still going on?
I don't understand.
Okay. Well then, will you get a manager and I'll speak to them and then I'll leave then. I just want to ask a few questions.
I mean, I've been to lots of places where there's been barriers up that have been housing refugees or doing whatever. They were the subject of a story. And I've been to these places and they had signage up, they had the gates closed. You know, I didn't go jumping any barriers or illegally going into a place. If the signage is up and you're prevented from doing it, but this was clearly written on the front of the premises that it was a hotel, and it was written over the door. So as I said, I mean, that to me is supposed to be an invitation to come into a building or a premises if it says hotel, ask to speak to somebody. And these people didn't identify themselves, wouldn't identify, and claiming to be, I frightened them somehow.
Yeah. Now the judge was saying, look, wasn't a hotel; it was being used for other purposes. You know, he was saying to welcome refugees, whereas, you know, in my capacity as a journalist who went down to have a look at it too, it was like, well, wait a second. You know, this place isn't fit for purpose, number one. And you're bringing in predominantly men from Georgia, from Afghanistan, Algeria. This is a very strange situation, so much so that the locals had blockaded both sides of the road. It was a story of public importance, and you, in your capacity as a journalist, went to ask questions. But that didn't come into the equation at all in court.
No, and I mean, my barrister now, and I think she did a very good job, and no matter who was there, I mean, I wouldn't have won in this case in these circumstances, but she did bring up the point where it was a car park and there was cars freely coming in and there was no barriers up, which made it a public place, the car park, and the only place I entered into was the car park. And we thought maybe that was a great grounds to actually win the case, but the judge disregarded that as well, you know.
It was extraordinary, but he also disregarded. Let's just look at the footage there a minute.
But who's in charge of the building?
I don't understand.
You don't understand. Well then, get somebody, please. Can you get somebody for me to explain what's happening?
I don't understand.
Do you think Irish people are stupid? Do you think you understood that, did you? Do you think we're all idiots? I wouldn't blame you, to be honest with you. No? What is your problem? You're in my country now, you're not in Ukraine. This is my country.
Okay.
You understand?
Okay.
Do you understand that you can't treat Irish men like that?
Okay, privat territory.
You're not working. You say you're working here. How are you? Hello? Hello? Can you call the guards? I'm not breaking I'm asking a question here of who's in charge. Are you the owner? It's a hotel. It's a hotel. What's the problem? What are you hiding? I'm just asking questions on behalf of the people of Ireland. Why are these people covering their faces? Why are you hiding? This is Ireland. This is my country. You understand?
No, understand.
No, you do. I know you do. So, anyway, folks, I don't know who that woman is. I hardly think she's the owner. She's not from Ireland. We need to speak to management. I'd like to speak to someone in management. There's no law against asking a question. This man has no... Are you security?
No.
Well, what are you doing here? Why don't you go away from me?
Volunteer.
Why don't you just go away then? Leave me alone. I'm trying to do some... I'm a journalist. I'm trying to do some journalism, yeah?
Yeah. I don't understand.
Yeah? Do you speak English? Would you like to speak to me?
So we can see from that clip there that Philip's talking to he looks like a security guard. He's wearing the yellow high-vis jacket. Yeah. But then you press him. You're like, who are you? And if he is a security guard, he has to be wearing a badge. Is that the case?
He's entitled to, by law, wear a PSA badge, Private Security Association badge. Okay. And he can't, as far as I'm aware, you can't act as a security guard without doing that course, getting that qualification, getting that badge, which are ID, so people can identify you if anything happens, you know?
Right, so he didn't have the badge, he couldn't speak English, and he said he didn't work there.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were asking for somebody who actually worked at the hotel, and you were accosted.
Yeah, a manager or a owner. And I offered to leave. If they were able to tell me they were managers or owners, I would leave the premises. Again, the judge didn't seem to take that into account at all, and that's what I would have done.
But you did. You left.
I left. Eventually, yeah. I was getting no joy from anywhere. There was just, I said, okay, I'll leave, and that's it. But I did. I pressed them to say, can I speak to an owner or a person in charge? A number of times, and I identified myself as a citizen journalist as well. And I note as well that lady that claimed she didn't once let me know that she was in charge of anything. She just walked up to me, and it's like as if you went into any particular hotel in the country and some stranger walks up and tells you to leave. You have to know who they were before.
She had no badge or anything.
She had no identification. She wouldn't even tell me if she was in charge. If she did, I would have left. I could have easily, and I did leave, eventually. But it was kind of, she was really capable of saying that she was a manager when she went up in front of the judge, but she couldn't tell me, and it would have ended the situation. I would have just said, yeah, you're the manager, you want you to leave. I would have left.
You're on private property.
Can I ask you?
I'm not going to engage with you.
Are you a manager? Are you a manager?
You have to leave.
I just want to ask what's going
You're on
on.
private property and you're trespassing.
Are you the
have
owner?
to leave now.
But if you're the
you
owner,
have
I'd
to
leave.
leave. The guards are coming.
Sorry,
you
can you
have
calm
to
down?
leave.
Can you calm down and
You
let me
have
ask
to
you a
leave.
question? Philip Dwyer is
have
my
to
name.
leave.
You can tell the guards.
You have to leave. Can you understand? You have to leave.
I'm
This
about
is
to ask you a
private
question,
property.
yeah? I'm just trying to ask you a question. That's
You
all.
have to leave.
How many men have you
You
got?
have
Who are
to
these
leave.
people? Are you the owner?
You
I'm
have
Leave
to
me alone,
leave.
please. Leave me alone.
You
not
are
talking to- I'm talking to
trespassing.
this lady here.
You are trespassing.
Leave me alone, please, bro.
Don't make the
Leave
mistake.
me, please, bro.
Why can't you just answer a question?
You are trespassing, breaking
I
the law.
I don't know who you are. If you're the, are you the owner?
trespassing. Mind your business. You're trespassing.
Then you can't
You're
ask me to
breaking the law.
leave.
The guards are coming.
It's a
The
hotel.
guards are breaking the law.
I'll speak to
It's
the guards.
private property.
Philip Dwyer is my name. That's my name. I'm a citizen journalist. Will you talk to me and just answer a question?
Yeah, we are feeling here good. If there's anything, so if I like this place, so no one.
So you'd be happy to stay here?
Yeah.
We're gonna help them to find jobs after they are allowed to work after 6
Yeah,
months.
they
They do
told-
English courses and they try to integrate good in society.
Yeah, they told us that we will prepare everything.
So we're
For
gonna
that,
help
we are
them
happy
with
so much.
everything.
I think the big point here was that you weren't acting like the rest of the mainstream media that were good boys and girls and stayed out, but you were one of the first on the scene, which is important in journalistic terms. You were the first to turn up and you went in and asked those awkward questions that we do expect journalists to ask, especially of a story of the utmost public importance, where we're talking about the illegal use of a premises. So these are going to be questions that they don't want asked, and that is the job of the journalist. But the judge seemed to be annoyed with you for
Being mean.
being mean to the Ukrainian man.
Yeah, I was being mean to this man. Now, he wasn't being mean to me by coming over, and I just stated a couple of facts, that he was in Ireland, he was from Ukraine, I'm an Irish man, and do you think you have a right to tell me what to do in my own country?
But these are all foreign people telling me what I can't do in my own country. So, you need to see what really is going on here. That you can't do simple journalism now, unless that journalism, well, it's not journalism, it's propaganda for the government. So, yeah, we're letting people know what's going on. So, listen, the guards will probably come for a journalist here. And, if somebody identifies, she says you're security, you're breaking the law, so I have to report this to the Gardaí, yeah? You're breaking the law, do you understand? You can't do security without a badge. You need to have a badge on your arm, an identification.
That is not allowed anymore, apparently. The judge was offended by this. It was held against me in the trespass decision, by the looks of things. Felt a bit prejudiced to me that it shouldn't really be relevant to the fact that I trespass or not, or whatever. This man was clearly not in fear of me. He was laughing at me with a smug smile. People, I'll put the footage up on my account. We'll put it up here, and people can make up their own minds that I put these people in fear. Absolutely absurd. They didn't like to be the sunlight to come on them. They didn't like to be disinfected by the sunlight of a journalist that this doesn't agree with the narrative that with this mass immigration scam that's going on, and that's what they were in fear of, that somebody else might probably question them on it as well.
Well, you see, this is what's interesting, because when I turned up and I spoke to the guy who'd come into Ireland with no passport, the big lorry passes by there.
Yeah.
But the other mainstream journalists had spoken to him and had left out the bit where he had entered the country with no passport.
Illegally.
Illegally?
Yeah.
Okay, so no documentation?
No documentation.
No
yeah.
passport?
No, we can illegally by boat.
By boat?
Yeah.
Oh, where did you come in?
It's a long story. Yeah.
Okay.
From Iran, it's a long story.
From Iran?
From Iran, Turkey, we crossing illegal border, Yeah, and Serbia, it's a long story.
You told them that too, but they had edited that out. Now, if that doesn't tell the public that we need citizen journalists to get in there, ask the awkward questions, and make it uncomfortable, because that is the job. But we can see now there's an attack on citizen journalism, and you are taking the brunt of it.
Well, look, I mean, it's nobody's lost an eye at the moment, and it's a €500 fine, which I'm appealing, and I'll appeal till the ends of the earth on this kind of stuff, because it's definitely, to me, it's an attack on people's right to find out what's going on. It should never be about whether you like a particular journalist or what they actually do or stand for. You know, it's the right that they have to have the right to go after topics and situations that they feel they need to come back in the public interest. And as I said, it was an interesting phraseology used there by the barrister, you know, is that I would regard myself as a public watchdog, and everybody else out there with a mobile phone should be allowed to be a public watchdog if they feel something unjust is happening to their society. But again, it's like there's craziest things going on in this country where people are getting, you know, found guilty of silly charges like myself, and then there's all sorts of migrant crime, and we have paedophiles getting off with suspended ridiculous sentences as well. You know, there's just this second-class citizen thing again.
Oh yeah, only that I saw it, only that I witnessed it with you and saw this kind of veneer of justice. It seemed like, oh, we're weighing this up seriously. But how could you be weighing this up seriously when we saw, you know, how the evidence was put forward against you, and then we had this video, and the judge ends up saying it's incriminating. I'm like, okay, well, let's leave this to the public. Let's see what you think yourselves, and please comment and share your opinions on this, because this is a matter of the utmost public importance. We need journalists like Philip to ask those questions, and if we don't have them, we're left with the mainstream media, we're left with this one-sided biased journalism, and where it's always Paddy last. Paddy will always be last in his own country.
Well, listen, Aisling, thank you for taking the time to come out and cover this story. You know, I really appreciate that, because it does need to get out there. It's not about me or anything. It's about an attack on the people's right to hear and know what's going on in the country. It really shouldn't be about individuals or persons, private persons. It should be just about the story and our rights under the Constitution to report. And you know, you can't be nice to everybody in every situation. Lots of people aren't nice to me. I get loads of threats and
it's
assaults.
a rough and tumble. It's a rough and tumble of journalism.
Occupational hazard.
It is. You know, it's not PR. And that's the whole thing. So, Philip, thanks a million for talking again.
Okay.
And Philip and I, you know, we don't agree on everything. People think we're supposed to agree on everything,
no,
don't we?
Well, we don't have to, exactly,
But in fairness, like, you know, this is the thing. This is a debate, rough and tumble, discussion. This is what it should be about, where it's allowed. We don't all have to do group think. Anyway.
All
right.
Listen, great to see you today, and thanks again for covering the story. Well done.
All right.